Welcome to my channel. I'm Gary Buryawan and welcome to Q&A where I answer your comments and questions. First of all, I want to thank you for your comments, your likes, your shares, your support for my channel. Really means a lot. I'm not really a big channel, so every kind of support really helps this channel to grow. So in this video, I will try to pick out some of your comments, the best ones especially, and I will try to answer them in this kind of video format. So if you have any question, especially related to photography, cameras, lenses, Micro Four Thirds camera system or not, please comment on any of my videos and maybe your question will show up in one of my Q&A videos and I will answer them. Now let's start with the first comment. First comment, do comparison on Lumix 14 to 140 versus 12 to 60, or which of the two lenses do you refer me to buy? In my opinion, the 12 to 60mm lens is already a versatile lens. You can go wide to 12mm and hopefully it's more than wide enough for most of everybody's needs. And it zooms in into 60mm, which is already telephoto. And on the other hand, this is the 14 to 140mm. I have that lens. This is very versatile. It's not as wide as the 12 to 60. 14 is a little bit tighter, but you cannot really see it in my opinion. And you can zoom in all the way to 140mm, which is really telephoto compared to the 12 to 60mm. So to answer your question, there's one thing that you should keep in mind, and that is the 12 to 60mm might already come as a kit lens for one of your Lumix cameras. And if you already have that, I don't think you need to upgrade to the 14 to 140mm lens. Unless if you are shooting frequently on the telephoto end of that lens and you feel kind of restricted. But again, I'm a big advocate of using what you already have. So if you already have the 12 to 60mm and you think it's enough for you, then you don't need to upgrade. Otherwise, if you feel limited by that lens, or if you don't already own any lens, then I would steer you probably to the 14 to 140mm. Next comment. Have you ever reviewed the Lumix 25mm f1.7? And the answer is not yet. I don't have that lens. However, I used to have the Olympus 25mm f1.8. I think that's a fantastic lens. I love the image quality taken using that lens. Everything just looks so sharp, so detailed. It's just a really nice lens overall. However, I'm not really into that 25mm focal length. It's not too wide, it's not too tight. It's kind of a little bit confusing for me. It feels like a telephoto lens, but it's not. So yeah, and usually when I'm doing street photography, I'm always like in between 17mm and 25mm. So I ended up selling that lens and also my Olympus 17mm lens. And I end up with this guy right here. This is the Panasonic 20mm f1.7. I think this is a really nice, like in between focal lengths between 17 and 25mm. So I much prefer this guy right here compared to the 25mm. Has the same aperture, it's even smaller, and the image quality is also nice. Next comment. Would you recommend the Panasonic Lumix GX85 over Olympus Pen EPL7? And the answer is not really that simple. If you require eyepiece, the EPL7 has in-body stabilizer. I think that could be an important feature, especially if you're doing low light photography with unstabilized lens. That could really help so much. However, the GX850, which I have right here, is much more compact in my opinion compared to the EPL7. It's much lighter. So if portability is a priority, then I would go with the GX850. However, if you want a little bit more feature and you don't mind slightly heavier camera, then the EPL7 is a good choice. I used to have the EPL6. That's a really nice camera. I miss it, by the way, and you know, I've been kind of like looking for another EPL camera that I want to really buy. However, again, I'm a big advocate of using what I already have, so maybe I'm not going to purchase an EPL camera anytime soon. Next comment. Laowa 7.5mm or Panasonic Leica 8 to 18 millimeter. I actually have both of those lenses. The thing with the Panasonic Leica 8 to 18 millimeter is that it's versatile and it has autofocus. So if you mostly shoot wide angle and you only want to carry one lens, I think the Panasonic Leica 8 to 18 millimeter is a better choice. It also has autofocus. You mentioned real estate photography. So with autofocus, I think it can really speed up the process quite a bit. But if you already have some lenses that starts at moderate wide angle, for example, this super zoom lens right here, the 14 to 140, or the kit lens Panasonic 12 to 32, or maybe the Olympus 12 to 40 millimeter, then Laowa might make more sense because you already have some other lenses for a specific kind of purposes. You just want an ultra wide angle lens, then choose the Leica. So yeah, again, if you already have some other lenses, Laowa. If you want to shoot with just one lens for everything, I think the Panasonic Leica 8 to 18 is a better choice. Next comment. Just wondering, I assume you have a preference for Panasonic Lumix over Olympus. Can you explain why? First of all, thank you for the kind comment. And to answer your question, yeah, I have a little bit of preference more towards Panasonic Lumix cameras because I do both photography and video. Some people might call this hybrid shooting or whatever. So for me personally, Panasonic Lumix makes more sense because it has more video features. Over here, I have the Panasonic Lumix G85. It is jam-packed with video features, and even though this is an old camera from 2016, I think this is still very relevant today, and the video features is not really out of date yet. And even with some basic Panasonic Lumix cameras like the GX85, you can already gain some video features that aren't available in Olympus cameras. For example, this camera you can change the frame rate to 25 frames per second, which I really use all of the time for my YouTube videos. I don't shoot in 24 frames, I usually shoot in 25 frames per second. And some of the Olympus cameras that I've already tried, they don't have the 25 frames per second option, so they're stuck at either 24 or 30, so it doesn't really make sense for me. Although I personally love Olympus cameras. Maybe some people don't know this, but I used to own the Olympus EPL6. I think it was really a great camera. It is, you know, a little bit bigger than the GX850, but it already has flipping screen as well as in-body stabilizer. So it has important features for photography. It's just a shame that it doesn't allow me to shoot in 25 frames per second. So hopefully this answers your question. Next comment. Hi Gary, I have watched several of your reviews and am seeking advice. My goal is to have two lenses that will be suited for family gatherings and traveling with a goal of shooting landscapes, flowers, animals, northern light or night sky, and distant things. We are going on an Alaskan cruise and I would like to have the ability to shoot land from the boat as well as things in the water. I'm also hoping to film exercise videos for my YouTube channel, camera on tripod and me in a chair, and would love it. One of the two lenses I purchased work for that as well. I could also see myself printing a few shots no larger than like 14 by 20. From my research, the G95 fits all my needs. I'm leaning toward the 14 to 140 and 75 to 300. Would I ever miss the 12 to 60 for my purposes? Thank you for the comment. Congratulations on the Alaska cruise. I think that's really nice. And to answer your question, both the 14 to 140 and 75 to 300, I think will make a great combo, and I don't think you will miss the 12 to 60 at all. So the 12 to 60, in my opinion, it's 2mm wider than the 14 to 140. That's the big elephant in the room that we need to address. And in my personal experience, the 2mm difference between 12mm and 14mm is not really that much. So I don't think you will miss it. Every time I use the 14 to 140, I don't really miss the 12mm of my 12 to 40 or the kit lens 12 to 32mm. It's negligible in my opinion. Some people claim that 2mm can make a whole lot of difference. In my case, it's not really like that. I don't think you will miss it, and I think you will be okay. Just a little bit of a backstory. The 14 to 140 lens, which is this particular lens right here, is one of the first few lenses that I purchased when I switched to Micro Four Thirds 10 years ago. And this was my only lens for a good few months. And it's really that good. Next comment. The 14 to 140mm is such a good lens. Those were some great shots. Do you toss the lens hood to the wind normally, or are there times when you do use it? Thank you for the kind comment and for the question as well. And the answer is no, I'm not using my hood anymore. Back then, when I first started using the 14 to 140, I always used the lens hood all the time, but I always accidentally twisted the hood ever so slightly. I didn't really notice it, but then the hood will end up on some of my pictures. You get that extreme black vignetting on the corners of the image, and that's just embarrassing. And I decided not to use the lens hood anymore. But using hood, I think, has its benefits. I think it prevents the front element of the lens to get smashed when you bump into some things. Maybe you bump into the wall or the door or to some other people. It can really help to protect the lens, as well as to have a little bit of shade, especially if you're shooting into some bright, light source or the sun or things like that. So yeah. Next comment, OM or Lumix? And the answer is both. Both are great manufacturers. Both makes great Micro Four Thirds cameras. I'm more into the Lumix side of things, as I mentioned earlier on the video on the other question. But OM is not bad at all. I mean, if you're more into photography, I think you should go with OM. If you're doing hybrid photography and video, I think Lumix will provide you with some features that you won't find in OM. But again, both are great. Next comment, how you clean your camera. So disclaimer, I'm not really, into all of that protecting my camera, taking good care of my cameras and lenses. I'm really clumsy, and these are tools. I don't really baby my camera. And with that said, how I clean my lenses especially, I just press into the front element of the lens like so. And I use a clean microfiber cloth, and I just kind of wipe it off like that. And for me, that's already clean. Regarding the body of the lens and the body of the camera, I also only wipe it using like dry cloths. Sometimes if it's grimy, oily and dirty, I will use like baby wipes or wet tissue and then wipe it with a dry cloth after that, and making sure that it looks nice and shiny and not oily and grimy again. Hopefully that helps. And that wraps up today's Q&A video. Hopefully this has been informative, entertaining, and inspiring. If you have more questions or comments, please comment on this video or any of my other videos. I will try my best to answer them. And also don't forget to support my channel by liking this video, sharing this video, subscribing to my channel down below. And if you want to support my work even further, you want to help to build this channel, consider using the affiliate links down below, or use the super thanks button to make a small donation to my channel. It will be appreciated a lot. Thank you, and I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.